It's our joy to be with you this evening. We're broadcasting the webinar tonight from Bangalore. So we'll begin with a chant. From Living Wisely, Living Will by Swami Kriyananda. Trust life, even if you cannot trust people. For human nature is unreliable, but life itself is ruled by immutable law. Right action leads always, in the end, to victory. And another reading from the Essence of Self-Realization. This is drawn from the chapter, The Dream Nature of the Universe. It's a dialogue between Yogananda and a disciple. Master, inquired a disciple, what purpose does evil serve in God's creation? Surely the Lord is a God of goodness and love. Is it possible that, as certain modern writers claim, he doesn't know evil? Sri Yogananda chuckled. God would have to be very stupid not to know evil. He who sees the fall of every sparrow, how could he not be aware of something so obvious? The disciple, perhaps he doesn't know it is evil. Yogananda, but the thing that makes it evil is the harm it does us. Certainly, he is conscious that people are living in delusion and that they therefore suffer. He himself created this delusion. The disciple, then, did God create evil? Yogananda, evil is his maya, or cosmic illusion. It is a conscious force which, once brought into existence, seeks self-perpetuation. Maya is Satan. It tries to keep our consciousness earthbound. God, the one reality, keeps trying at the same time to draw us back to himself by his divine love. The disciple. But then, It must have been meant for Satan to play a role in the divine scheme of things. Yogananda, smiling, evil serves the same purpose as does the villain in a drama. The villain's misdeeds help to awaken in us love for the hero and for virtuous ways. Similarly, evil and its painful after effects are meant to awaken in us love for goodness and God. The disciple, but Master, if good and evil are both merely parts of cosmic drama, what does it matter what roles we play in the story? Whether as saints or as gangsters, our parts will be illusory and won't affect our true nature as images of God. The Master laughed. You're right in the ultimate sense, but don't forget that if you play the part of a villain in a drama, in that drama you will also have to receive the villain's punishment. If, on the other hand, you play the role of a saint, you will awaken from this cosmic dream and enjoy oneness with the dreamer for all eternity. There was a point where a spiritual aspirant, a disciple, came to Ananda Ma, who Master met in the mid-30s, the joy-permeated mother that we read about in the autobiography of a yogi. And this soul was very concerned about the way the world was going, seemingly in a tailspin. And what was Ananda Ma's very inspiring response? She said simply, don't you think that the Lord that has created this world knows how to take care of it? And so for us, it really is a journey in growing trust, both in ourselves as souls and in the part that we are playing temporarily in this Maya, remembering, as Yogananda said, which again is very, very hopeful, that we are in God for eternity, and then for a short time we're in delusion, and then we return to God for eternity. And so for us, it's a matter, and it really takes some schooling, how to balance this growing trust in ourselves, or this growing trust in God, this growing trust in God doing everything for the best, this growing trust in people. And it really is quite a journey, and I think for most people it's not a short journey. It takes some real perseverance in order to continually lift the veil so that we can see clearly. The reason that we love the saints so much, and there's many reasons of course, but one of them is that they see so clearly. As Yogananda said, if you can only see as I see who you are, you're lights. This is what I see lights. And so this growing trust that we have in again, ourselves and God and so forth, is really a matter of appreciating that God, who is love, is really totally and 100% committed, though sometimes we wonder, but it's true, to drawing us back into the light. And that this drama is again just a dream, it's an illusion. And so we are inspired many times by different ones, primarily the saints, that really see clearly what is going on. And we see in their actions how they demonstrate that they have gotten themselves to a point in their spiritual evolution where their hearts are so large, like Christ. There he was experiencing excruciating pain on the cross, and what did he say? Father, forgive them, they know not what they do. It was an extraordinary statement for the ages. Well, there's another story that really is quite extraordinary too. And this is drawn from the life of Corrie ten Boom. If you have a chance to read, or perhaps you've seen the movie, The Hiding Place, it's very inspiring. And so she went through with her sister Betsy tremendous trial. Betsy died in the extermination camp there in Germany, as other family members did and so forth. And so Corrie, however, survived. And she, as a very, very dynamic and committed Christian, lover of God and of Christ, was doing all that she could after the war had ended to help mend the situation, because of course there had been so many heartbreaks among the millions of people that had to experience the Holocaust. So at one point she was very, very severely tested. And it was, again, she was working with people, even the Nazis, those that had been, the enemy. She was working with them to try bit by bit to help them put their lives back together. And this was no small task. And so finally a test came to her. And what was this test? During one of these experiences, there were perhaps numbers of people there, likely. There had been inspirational talks and so forth, and maybe she was the one that gave the talk. I don't remember now. But anyway, after the event was over, a man came up to her, and she was struck with the shock of the experience, because she recognized this man as one of the ones that had murdered her family. And this man now had gone through an extraordinary change, a miraculous change really, and was there at this rally and was doing all that he could to get himself back into a state of peace and all of these needed things. And so there he came up to Corrie and extended his hand. Well, she had a brief moment as to what she was going to do, because she knew that this was perhaps the test of a lifetime. And what happened was she felt Christ. She had that kind of attunement flowing through her and extending. She herself, perhaps on a human level, could not have done this, but it was the Spirit flowing through her. And she was able, with pure love and pure forgiveness, to extend her hand and shake the hand of someone who had destroyed her family. And so this kind of trust is not something that we can just say, well, gee, I could perhaps do that too. Maybe we could. But this was truly a test of tests. And she was able to respond in this way, which was perfectly appropriate in the situation and so generous, because she had spent so much time after the experience she had had in the prisons and so forth, in building once again her trust in God, in herself, and in humanity. And so it really is a bit of a juggling act, because for us, there are people that we're not so comfortable around, and they may even be disciples, which makes it even more complicated. And it may be their personality, it may be that we've had numerous experience with them where they kind of didn't quite follow through, whatever. We've had these experiences in life. And what do we do about it? The commitment that we need is that continued commitment to build these bridges of trust, so that we are able more and more on a daily basis to lift the veil so that we can see clearly who is before us, the shining soul. And yes, the personality and so on may never be to our liking. I have had an experience with someone, and to this day, I'm grated by their personality, but I truly can say, truthfully, I love them. I don't love their personality and the way they behave. Often I'm in a state of shock when I've either experienced, some flippant remark from them or whatever. But what has happened is, because I have had to spend so much time with these different individuals, that finally the veil is lifted sufficiently that I see that they've got a pure heart, and that their intentions are pure, and that they, fall into this trap of personality and so on, as we all do, with the quirks of character that we all have. Then what of it? And so really, it becomes for us a blessing to see what we can do to rise to the occasion. It's easy enough to build the bridge of trust when we've had incarnations with these individuals. There's no question about it. You see them, you don't have to know anything about them, you love them. And that's the end of that, and you love them perhaps the entire incarnation, no matter what they do. And there's others where you think, oh my gosh, now what am I going to do? You know, what is this? This is not what I had bargained for. As one time, and this was very curious, these two monks, this was during Swami's time when he was with Master in the late 40s, early 50s. And these two monks had this irrational animosity toward one another. They just hated each other, and they just couldn't find a way to get over it. It was that kind of experience. And it was very, very tough. They're in the ashram where there's the Christ-like Master in their midst, and meanwhile, they're hating a fellow disciple. It was horrible. And so they, at one point, they knew they needed help, and so luckily they went to the Guru and said, what is this? And Yogananda, of course, not being bound by limitation, not being bound by this Maya, saw that it was simply that they were enemies in the past. Once they were able to understand that, then it was easy. Okay, that makes sense, because it did not make sense that they wanted to just pick fights just constantly over anything and everything. But when they found that, no, this is buried in the past, they began to work on it and became friends. And so this was a triumph. Now, we don't always have, perhaps we seldom have this kind of blessing where we can get through intuition, through talking to a saint, whatever it might be, this kind of clarity. What are we going to do? We have to have the faith that this individual, these individuals that we find in our lives are children of God. And that they will have a time, as we will all have that time, where we will find God. It's guaranteed. And so why don't we find ways in our own hearts to give them the benefit of the doubt? Because it doesn't do us any good, and it doesn't do anyone else any good to continue to hold a grudge and say, well, I will extend myself when that person changes. Now that's a waste of time. That's not going to help at all. We need to change. As years ago I stumbled upon this wonderful saying, if you want to change the world, change yourself. I thought, wow, that's pure yoga. What is yoga? Yoga is union. And so our job as we go through the labyrinth, the various chapters in life, is to do what we can to draw the goodness out of people. And that's why we love the saints. I was reflecting on how many different people, and it's still the case, are a part of our work here at Ananda, in India, in the States, in Europe, throughout the world. And such an incredible diversity of all the different countries that we represent and all of that. As a matter of fact, in the early 70s, which I found astonishing when someone shared this fact, this was maybe 72, 73, the community had been only going for about 5 years. There were 40 different countries represented. And again, as Master said in the end of his autobiography of Yogi, Lord, thou hast given this monk a large family. And so it gives us ample opportunity for us to find ways to extend ourselves and to continue to trust. And it's not just on a human level. That's a big project. We need also to do that on a divine level, because many times we'll pray and the prayer isn't answered. And we think, what is this? A withdrawal of love? Never. It's impossible, because God is love, and that love is always there for us. For whatever reason, of course it's karma, God says, well, I don't think so. Maybe later. Maybe later we'll grant this prayer, but not just yet. And if we haven't grown in trust and in faith and love for God, then this can be a setback for us. And so we always have to, and it's something that I've found very helpful in my own life when I pray, because Yogananda said, if you have wholesome desires, then go after them. So I thought, okay, we have to live in this world, we need this, we need that, then that's fine. And so I have found that over the years, my prayer is, whatever it might be. It may be for a spiritual blessing. It may be for something that is, a material need. I'll always say, if it's all right with you. Because if it's not something, whether the timing is wrong or whatever, then I don't want it. So if it's all right with you. And I found that sealed the deal. Because in that way, I could be in a state of amused detachment, which is ideal. So that if God said, fine, here you go, here you have it, great. I had a wonderful, true experience with a fellow monk of mine years ago, which was good fun. And we were really very good friends. And so I was praying for a motorcycle because we were out there in the woods, and this was a need. It was a real need, because I couldn't afford the maintenance of a car. A motorcycle would be perfect. So I prayed for some months. And out of the blue, he got a motorcycle. And so because he was a good buddy, I said, hey, the wires got crossed, and the delivery, was to come to me. And so I'd like my motorcycle back. He says, no way. I'm not going to give you that. This is my motorcycle. I says, what are you talking about? I prayed for it. You did nothing. Did you pray for the motorcycle? He had to admit he hadn't. And so I said, well, there it is. I prayed for it. It's my motorcycle. There was some kind of a postal problem there, up top. And so we had a good laugh over it. As it worked out, sometime later, I got an even better motorcycle, which was very sweet. And I appreciate that because the timing wasn't right. And plus, Divine Mother loves a good laugh. And so we had a good joke. And from time to time, I would tease him that, listen, I need to borrow my bike, And, no, you can borrow my bike, he would say, So he made sure he was straight to go on some errand. And so he was always very clear, about that. Yeah, it's okay. But as long as you understand this ownership, it's mine, it's not yours. So as we grow spiritually, it's very, 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 very important that this bridge of trust is extended. Really, we work on it on a daily basis, ideally, is extended to the divine, is extended to ourselves, is extended to our brothers and sisters on the path. And I love really the thought that we are brothers and sisters, because we are. Because brothers and sisters fight. And brothers and sisters don't always see eye to eye. That relationship, I have a brother. And 5.5 years older than me. And, though I love him nevertheless, there would be these disagreements. But when you think of brother and sister, it sweetens the experience. And it makes it much easier to rise to the occasion, to forgive, to continue to build that growing trust that we all need to have. Because otherwise, what's the experience? And we see it etched in people's faces. Hopefully they're not in that bad attitude for too long, where again we hear, I never will love again. And you think, that's a real mistake. We all get trampled on. I mean, that's just part of the world, is a part of the experience in this world, as Swamiji said, this place is a hospital. And other people consider it a gymnasium and all of this. But everyone understands within a very short time on this earth that it's a real workout. And those that have the true understanding of the purpose of their life know that this is the journey of diminishing the ego, in time destroying the ego and going back into the light. Those that don't understand, then it's very tough, because they think there's a conspiracy. And if there is even a God, as a friend who wasn't very happy at one point said, that idiot up in the sky. I thought, that idiot up in the sky? I've never heard God described in that way before. And I had to say to myself, God described in that way, really, it's love. Because there was, although there was this kind of a bit of a shaking of the fist, nevertheless there was a sweetness, because she acknowledged somebody up top. Very good. So she was far from being an atheist or even an agnostic. She was just exasperated by the testing the relentless testing over and over and over and over again. As we often share at Ananda, as God never sleeps, Ananda never sleeps. It's just one thing after another. As I shared some time back with a friend, just for fun, I said, I want to give you a clue as to how to manage here at Ananda. It's so simple. When somebody asks you to do something, just do a bad job. And they'll never ask you to do it again. And then you can have a life of meditation and all of this, and it'll be wonderful for you. And so he had a big laugh over that. Of course, it's not the way we want to go. At Ananda, we do our best to do a good job. And then 5 minutes later, there's a knock on the door. Oh, I heard that you did this, and so can you do this other thing? And of course, it takes, real discrimination in order to understand what is ours and what might be the other person's. Because, let's face it, it's a big family, and there's many, many, many opportunities to serve here. And so, in conclusion, trusting God, trusting ourselves, trusting the God in our brothers and sisters is of vital importance. And with that trust comes a growing love. With that trust comes a growing joy. With that trust comes a growing sweetness. And we begin to see that life begins to be fun. And that's what it's all about. Remember, as Swamiji said many, many years ago, he was speaking before a large audience, and he was considered, and really I think by many, father of communities, spiritual communities. And he was asked, what's the mission of Ananda? Figuring maybe a 10-minute answer. He said, the mission of Ananda is to have fun. And so as we grow spiritually, and as we work on the many, many things that are before us, both inwardly and outwardly, let's see what we can do to have the humility to call out to God and say, please, this is a bit of a challenge. I really need your help. I need your help in that I need to trust that you're doing everything for the best, which I know perhaps intellectually, but right now my faith is wavering a little bit. Please, come to me. Give me that grace so that I know within my heart that it's true. And as we begin to experience, as we are more and more, these blessings that come from God, both inwardly and outwardly, all we can say is thank you. Gratitude is a very important part of the spiritual path. So, God bless you all. It's again a joy to be broadcasting here from Bangalore, and we wish you a very good evening.